and you are. We are citizen Outbreak. Welcome to the podcast.
Worry about it. I'm ready for it.
Well, we might be laughing, but we're not laughing. We're laughing because we're when you get to the point when you're angry and you're upset where you start, you start laughing because you're so pissed. Am I right, Matt?
Yeah, I'm pissed off, Rudy. I'm pissed off about a lot of stuff.
It's been,
but I'm happy to see you, and I'm happy to be recording.
I'm happy to see you too, and I'm happy to be recording.
I like the hat, by the way, Toccoa Provisions.
Yeah, I think I've worn it before in a previous episode, maybe one of the earlier ones, but I'm wearing it again. Made in the USA.
I like it. Toccoa
because
Provisions.
At the end of the day, we are in the great USA. But what's become of this great country of ours, Matthew? What in God's name has become of this country?
Well, what's on your mind?
I mean, look, we're going to talk about, we got a bunch of topics over here. I don't know where to start, but I think we should start with the great Charlie Kirk and his unfortunate assassination. And how can this happen in our country? How can a man who speaks, now you don't have to agree with what he's talking about, but to kill somebody because of what they speak about, I don't think we've seen anything like that since Martin Luther King.
Well, I think there's a few different areas to it, right? So, you start with kind of, because a big thing that was going around, being knocked around here was, how did we get here? And, Trump came out and talked about the left, and people were like, rhetoric, he needs to calm down his rhetoric. And so it became a big, back and forth, basically, who's to blame. For me, there's a few things to that. One, and you could cite a lot of different things, but then without, I try to resist getting caught up in this is what you did and this is what they did. But for me, like a real moment across the last 5 years was when 78-year-old presidential nominee Joe Biden stood up on a stage and he said, trans rights are the civil rights issue of our time. At that time, in 2020, when that 78-year-old candidate, I say his age because the guy's been around forever, right? Despite his deteriorated state, he's a long-standing politician. Stood up there and said that this is the civil rights of our moment. At that time, less than 8.8% of the American electorate identified as trans. So why is somebody that's running for the highest office in the country, that is, generally you're looking to appeal to the widest section of the electorate because you're trying to get the most votes you can? And why did his speechwriters and the DNC choose to lean in so heavy into such a fringe issue that affected less than 0.8% of the electorate that they were trying to solicit for votes? So why, you can look to, what were they doing? They made a bet on the most fringe, most vulnerable section of their constituency. Okay. They made a bet that they could mobilize these people. We saw them in 2020 carry through with that from the civil rights thing, when they said that when they described what was going on with the summer of love in Seattle and burning and looting of all the cities that they had just kept closed for all those months during COVID, they described that as free speech and civil liberties. Okay, it was looting, it was violence, burning our cities down. And the people on the TV and the politicians described it as civil rights. Why is that all important to me? Because you had a group of young people 5 years ago that went out and were told, go do it. Go burn all this shit down. They used a bunch of different techniques and strategies to inflame these kids, and they set them loose. And it was a strategic bet, to really tap into the hysteria that they saw was working so well during COVID. So what happened 5 years later? 5 years later, those people that they sent to burn down our fucking cities they got organized. And there are groups like the Democratic Socialists of America, who, by the way, Zandami, Zohran works for, right? But there are groups like this across the country that now have influence. And the Democratic Party, as our generation understands it, and as certainly as people that are older than us understand it, doesn't exist anymore. There's a reason why Bill Clinton, Obama, and all these, and Chuck Schumer are now like kowtowing to this far left, because they're scared that they're going to get them out of office. And so for me, it's a direct line of how we got here. Was a strategic bet that they made on using the most kind of hysterical, the most obvious ways to try and get people to such a hysterical temperature, and removing consequence from the equation. It's been a systematic campaign to get us here.
Right. So so from the time that Charlie Kirk was assassinated up until, I want to say, even today, there's been, you go all over X, all over social media, you walk into the supermarket, people are talking about it. You didn't really know how big Charlie was until he was assassinated. I mean, I knew how big he was, and the reach he had. I mean, if you were to rank people on who helped President Donald Trump get elected in 2024, I would probably put him at number one.
I mean,
I believe he helped get him Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. But what I want to say is, there's people who are terribly sad, angry that this happened, and then there's people who are happy. And I can't look. No matter how much I hate somebody, well, I have a list, but
I mean,
politically, I'm not going out there and, well, maybe one person, but politically, I'm not going out there and saying, yes, this person was killed. Like, the guy has 2 young children, a wife. He's 31 years old. He's young. And how could you even go out there and cheer this? Like,
well,
you might not agree with what he said or what he stood for, but how can you be so filthy and so disgusting that you cheer and applaud an assassination of a young man?
Well, I mean, there's a reason, because when they're told that he's a Nazi or he's an alt-right extremist, who wouldn't be happy that there's a rational journey. When you hear that news about a Nazi being killed, if you don't like the association of Nazi, you're saying, good, a Nazi got killed. The channel that politics, and everything is political, right? The channel that everything is dealt with right now, whether it's candidates on either side or the media, it's just to inflame. So, when everybody is Hitler, nobody is Hitler. And so, look, they've been telling everybody for years now, there's no longer nobody discusses the substance of any issue. They just talk about the person. The strategy became, we're not going to talk about, immigration, the merits of that. We're not going to talk about tax policy. If you vote for or support this guy or this cause in any way, you're a Nazi. You're evil. You're a bad person. And, look, it's the nature of the room. Everybody's doing it on both sides. But I mean, there's just places we can point to on the left, and call it the mainstream. Forget about the left. And you look at, you saw that meme that's been going around about comparing Charlie Kirk's, the fallout from his death and that of George Floyd. I mean, that's a real thing, because we know that, like, the way that they released the footage was curated. We know that the way that they talked about Trump's initial reaction, which they buried, like, he denounced it 3 times. They led with that he didn't denounce it. So, I mean, it's just not, you're not being intellectually honest if you don't admit, like, in that case, like, they did as much as they could to inflame that situation. They let this guy, Charlie Waltz run for vice president, and his city was sacked. I mean, the guy held back and let his city, just like police stations, black neighborhoods getting burnt to the ground, right? And the kids.
It wasn't Charlie, Tim Waltz.
Tim Waltz, whatever the guy's name is. But what I'm saying is, to your question of how can people be happy, it doesn't, like, when you're only dealing and communicating in such idiotic hysteria. If everybody's Hitler, then none of it's real. And it's like, the way that they describe it, it's like, that's how. And it's that anybody has to qualify anything. Look, people don't have to like what Charlie, and that's another thing. They're like this whole thing about division. That's another lie that they keep feeding to people. America was never founded on the premise that we all had to get along and sing songs together. It was actually founded on the opposite. It was founded, we were a bunch of different states that had very different values, very different cultural, details. But we had this loose connecting thing, the federal government, and we wanted to stand up against the royals in England. So we were like, hey, let's unite for this. But this place was founded on the notion that we can have the fiercest of divisions and the most radically opposing ideas and not deal with it with guns. They've created laws in the Constitution to protect my ability to be, in your eyes, a fucking horrible person. Protect my life and give me the right to do so. This idea that people are divided, like, good. You're supposed to have ideas that divide people, but stand up and, I'm sorry to talk, but like Charlie Kirk actually, whether you like him or not, what he did was he showed up somewhere to a hostile environment. The person that chose the topic of debate was the person that walked up to the mic, right? So he's not even like prepared with, like, I walk up, hey, fuck you, Charlie Kirk. He has to sit there and he's ready. So, I mean, like, in the concept of it, whether you liked it or not, he was actually showing up to debate with people. That's a powerful legacy.
Right. And Charlie had this phenomenal, I don't even know what it is, but he had these facts where he knew history, he knew facts about history, he knew everything that went back like hundreds of years, and he just boom, 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 like he had it right away. It's not like he paused. He would come at you with facts. He would come out with you, and if you spit at him with this is this, and he says, no, that's not true. That's not correct. Here is the correct thing. And a lot of the stuff that was out there and why people are so angry with him, they don't even know what he was talking about because a lot of the stuff was taken out of context. Look at Stephen King. He put on X, Charlie, I'm trying to think what it was, but he apologized because
there was a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. He quoted something that Charlie said, but Charlie didn't say it. He was actually quoting something out of the Bible.
Yeah, and Stephen King, well, good to a level, good on him because he actually he said, I had the wrong information and I apologize.
Right.
But, look,
he came out.
We're in a society, nobody's got the attention span, right, to actually go and listen to content. So they go and look for the person that they like. Like, if I like Stephen King, I know he's on my side. What did he say about Charlie Kirk? Okay, good. He said he's a bad person. He's like, I'm with him. And that's it.
Right. And this has been going on now from Trump. Like, oh, Trump is against this. Trump said this. Trump is racist. Trump's against abortion. Trump is this. Trump is that. Did Trump really say that? Yes, he did. Well, tell me, where did he say that? Well, I saw it. I saw it on social media. You saw a clip of it that was taken out of context. And the same thing is with Charlie Kirk. They're taking things out of context. He's not a hateful person. He was not a hateful person.
Right,
and it's really sad.
He wasn't. It's very sad. But the thing is, like, let's say that your people can take real issue with what he says, right? Because he took positions. But it's like this bullshit that they feed that, like, hateful is just a very wrong. It's with intention. Look, you look to the right and the left, right? Think about the different terms you have for people on the right side of the aisle. You have alt-right, far right, extreme right. You have, then you look to the left, right? There's not really the converse of any of that. So when you look up like this far right concern, like, what's far right? Like, the truth is, if you looked at Charlie Kirk, like, far right, like his positions are pretty center of the road. Like, he's like a Bible thumping Christian talking about family. He's anti-abortion, based, I mean, like, far right. Like, the reality is that's a 50%, give or take issued. And when you start getting into the later trimesters, it's actually like he slopes his way across America. So far right. My point is, like, these labels, they don't really have so much. Do they talk about AOC as the far left? I don't think they do. Do they talk like it's like they don't really throw around these tags, which are used with purpose. It's to create already bias against these people.
Well, here's the thing. You just brought it up. It's bad to be family. It's bad to be a Christian. It's bad to be a hard worker. But it's good to be a communist. It's good to be a socialist. It's good to be free this, free that.
Well, it's
It's
crazy.
good to
Look,
commit crime.
the way they talk about MAGA, right? Trump, look, there's two different things. In 2020, Trump got 12 million more votes than he did in 2016 that we know about, right? Obama lost a bunch of millions, so did Bush. I mean, it never happens. When Trump got the most votes in 2020, of course, Joe Biden got 90 million or 120 million or 500 million, whatever they said he got. But Trump got 90 million votes, or sorry, 75 million votes in 2020. In 2024, he increased again, widest dispersing outside of white people, like in terms of demographics. What's my point? My point is the way that they talk about MAGA, like MAGA Republicans, like there were more than 70 million Americans that voted for this guy to be president. The media and our politicians are lying by describing a MAGA Republican as some, like, if a kid were to turn on the TV, they would really think that like some gang of like MAGA hat wearing guys, like 50 guys, ran into DC and stole the presidency. So it's kind of like you start from a baseline of just such dishonesty, and then on that dishonesty, they just it's constant. You know, we made a game about it, said it's an outbreak. It's just a constant. The device is to inflame as much hysteria as you can, set loose the fucking kids that'll do whatever you tell them, and then once it happens, this is a time. This is not about politics now. Everything is politics. Everything that happens is political. Right. And, oh, this is not a time to be political. It is. It's a time to, like, this should be, what happened with Charlie Kirk should be a time for people to be like, what's going on here? Because it's like we've reached such a stupid place in American politics where, like, we have grown people talking about 147 different genders. Like, it's fucking stupid. And, I don't care about right, left. It's like you need some grown-ups back in the room that are just going to be like, this is fucking stupid. Because the numbers aren't there.
It's crazy. Let's get to the and I don't want to talk about this guy, but we're gonna have to talk about it because that's what we do. The shooter, the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, 22 years old, from Utah. The alleged shooter. What we know is he devised the plan. He scoped out the university in Utah where Charlie was giving one of his debates with thousands of people there. He scoped it out. He got onto the roof. He took I think it was a 200-yard shot straight to the neck. Everybody saw the video. I mean, if you didn't see the video, don't see the video. It's gruesome. Unfortunately, I saw it many times. What do we know about Tyler Robinson? You want to go, or you want me to go?
Yeah, you continue. You continue.
What do we know? We know that he came from a decent family who supported America. Maybe they were MAGA, maybe they weren't. We don't know. His father, I guess he says he can, or from what we understand, is he confessed to his father. His father took him to a minister. The minister helped turn him in. Then other news came out that he was roommates and lovers with
Furry.
transgender furry. And he is from what we understand, what people said that know him is he is a trans chaser.
What's that?
Now-
Trans chaser.
A trans chaser. He chases trans people.
Okay.
He had a transvestite fetish.
That's his type.
That's his type. So when you go back and look and see and with all the information that's coming out about him, and he was, he's around his family, normal kid, straight A student, went to college, and something happened in college that threw him off, where he started going after these transvestites, trannies. He started to think differently and hate towards a certain demographic, certain maybe hated Republicans, hated what Charlie Kirk was saying. And something happened. We don't know what happened. We're not getting any evidence or information about what happened in those last couple of years of his life where he went from living at home to living with this transvestite
Furry.
furry. What happened? We don't know.
Just want to have all the details.
Yeah. And if people don't know what a furry is, this is a thing now in schools across America. And a lot of people are like, no, this is not true. No, this is true. There are kids that go to school, whether it be high school or college, they think that they are a cat, a dog, a bunny, or whatever it is, and they dress up like one. And we're not talking about dressing up in a furry outfit like Turtle did in Entourage when he dressed up as the pink bunny. We're talking about they wear these ears, they wear tails. They don't want to go to the regular bathroom. They want to go in a separate bathroom.
I like peeing outside.
They don't want to be a male or a female. They want to be a dog, a cat, whatever it is. This is a thing. And what I don't understand is, and I believe we spoke about it on a previous, there are dress codes in school. You know, girls aren't allowed to show revealing things. Guys can't wear certain things. If you go wearing political things, they tell you to take it down. But yet these furries are allowed to go dressed up with
Look,
ears and tails. I don't get it.
it goes back to my point about Biden and the Democratic Party and the media going in all in on this appeal to trans. Now forget about trans. Pretend that it was just, I don't know, people that love to I don't know, hopscotch. It's just such a small slice of American electorate that, you got to look at it and be like, what are they doing? Well, it's not because it doesn't follow the pattern. If you're trying to get all the votes, you don't just say, hey, I'm going to focus on this little dot on the table. It's for purpose. Like they shoved drag queens into pre-K to do story time and told you that you were a racist or anti-gay if you didn't like that. They told you that you were extreme right if you didn't like them prescribing puberty blockers and, talking about sexual options and gender fluidity to your 4-year-old. They told you that you were a racist if you put any problems against, why is this kid dressing up like a dog and shitting on the floor? I mean, it's insane. It's insane, but it's not organic at all. Like none of this development is organic. The only part that's organic is apparently you can really get a good amount of society to go along with absolutely anything. And that is where we're at right now, which is the really scary thing because they have crossed critical mass. Like if they came out tomorrow and said like everybody's got to, fix like a purple dildo to their face or we're all going to die, you'd get enough people doing it. They'd make pins, they'd put flags up, and so we're in trouble because to couple that, they've also gotten rid of critical thinking and attention span. Right? They've just removed attention span and critical thinking from society. So it's very difficult. How do you engage? And, look, back to the start of this, Charlie Kirk was actually traveling the country, engaging his peer group, really the victims of this system, the pawns, and engaging with them on what, trying to have open discourse about everything where they could choose the topics. He would go to places where where he knew he was going into somewhere where it was hostile and they could choose the topics. There's nothing more pure about that exercise, all these people, and they're qualifying everything with, not that I stood for everything who gives a shit if you stand for everything? Like it doesn't matter. And you don't have to like the guy. And, the truth is we got here, because to answer your question, we got to where we got because there's a small group of people that are pursuing an agenda and they saw a strategy that they bet on, and it's now gotten out of hand. Like there is the Democratic Party as people, the average Joe might believe it to exist. It doesn't exist anymore. It's been completely absorbed by the radical, fringe that the Schumers and the Obamas and the Clintons were appealing to in what they thought was just a bet to get some votes. Now they're really subservient to them. That's why Obama's
now
calling
it's the Democratic Socialist Party, which this Tyler Robinson was apparently a part of. He was a part of this. Okay. But there's like some weird things. So I want to discuss some weird things, inconsistencies in all of this. And we're not going to speculate or say anything, or I'm not going to say if it's true or if it's not true. I just think it's weird. For the first thing I want to talk about is eyewitnesses say and videos say and whatever how you're reading the videos say that that Tyler was carrying the gun, shotgun in it, in his leg. Then that's why he was limping. Then it turns out that those videos were actually he was limping because he jumped off of the top of the roof and hurt himself when he jumped down. That's one thing. The other thing that I still don't understand is when he jumped off that roof, where was the gun? Where was the shotgun? Okay. Some say he disassembled it and put it in a backpack, and when he jumped off, that's where it was. But when they found the gun about a mile away from the incident, the gun was intact. It wasn't disassembled, it was intact. So where in the videos, where was the gun when he jumped off the roof? All right, there's that. Discord that he was in, he was telling people, I guess there's 20 people in the Discord account. If you don't know what Discord is, it's an online chat. You could go into different groups. A lot of people use it for gaming. A lot of people use it for various other reasons. He told people that he was going to do this in there. And we don't know who's in there. We don't know what. Discord says it's not true, but people are saying it is true. Then there's this. Well, can we talk about the old man who, when Charlie got shot, who started screaming, "Shoot me, shoot me." They jumped on top of him, the police, to arrest him, thinking that he was the shooter. And he said, "I know my rights. I will not talk to you without an attorney."
Yeah.
That man, his name is George Zim. Now, do you know who George Zim is?
Yeah, he was there. He made a convenient call on 9/11. They saw that going around on. Is that what we're talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
And what did he say during that?
He
witnessed it, that he had
Right.
some information.
Right.
What was he doing in Utah?
By the way, is that confirmed?
Yes, that is confirmed. But
Okay.
what is he doing in Utah?
Well, by the way, you also, I don't know if you've seen the latest video where the prevailing kind of consensus now is that he was actually shot from the side. Have you seen that slow motion video? And when I say prevailing consensus, I'm talking about online, and more it's rising up through the influencers, and for lack of a better term, on the right side of politics. It's not like Officer Tatum reposted it. It's starting to get real traction.
Wait, what do you mean?
So I think I sent it to you. So in addition to, first kind of layer, right? People picking apart, was the distance, right? Everybody became a gun expert, and
right, everybody was a gun expert.
But if you ask ChatGPT, it's a very small population. Let's just say it narrows the field of suspects who could hit a 200-yard shot outside conditions under pressure, 1 foot diameter. That narrows your suspects. But everybody became a gun expert. Then there's the Mauser, the gun that you talked about, which, then people demonstrated you can't just disassemble it. They said, but then they came out with something saying, well, he could have used this tool to disassemble. So that was another thing. Whether it was assembled, where it was found, everything you talked about. Then there's also this other theory, which is now getting traction, being posted by people with more and more followers, that show that what the video alleges shows proof that the shooter was actually 6 feet away on the right side of Charlie, and that the bullet came from that side. All of these things, they started going before the body hit the floor. Okay. And it's a crazy world that we live in. There's positives and there's negatives and there's challenges about the idea of real-time citizen journalism. There's certainly positives about it, and then there's things to be careful about. But the biggest problem, right, is that for me, okay, I'm just talking about for me, none of our institutions have any credibility anymore. Okay. Our FBI, right? I don't trust a thing that comes from our government. Okay. There's just been too many cases, whether, in my lifetime, things that I really knew the details on, whether it was Vegas, whether it was Operation Crossfire Hurricane, where beyond a doubt, it's been exposed that the Obama administration used foreign and domestic law enforcement intelligence agencies to frame a narrative about Trump being a Russian spy. Like, you want to talk about division, but the people that did that at the FBI, CIA, and they got promotions. They've put out books. They made a lot of money. Kevin Kleinsmith, the guy that, this is all, got found guilty of forging the warrants. He got literally $100 fine, and he's at the FBI. So not to mention the first Trump, in Butler, we don't know anything about it. We do know that there are all kinds of crazy details about that assassin and who he was, and all kinds of details. Nothing. We're never going to hear anything about it. So our institutions have zero credibility. We are left. Thank God we have citizens that are out there, but they're also kind of just following what they can. So there's really no central body that you can trust. They've destroyed the credibility of our institutions.
I got something else for you.
Yeah.
All right. March 6, 2022. I'm going to read you a tweet from Charlie Kirk. Okay? I'm going to read you two. The first one is on March 6, 2022. Republican Governor Spencer Cox of Utah is refusing to protect women's sports. Is signaling he will pander to the trans lobby to continue the destruction of children. Why? He is likely being paid off by Big Pharma, who makes billions off hormone blockers and chemical castration. Second one, March 7th, 2022. Utah Governor Spencer Cox should be expelled from the Republican Party. Who's the governor of Utah right now?
Cox?
And Spencer Cox. This happened in Utah. Spencer Cox, he's gung-ho about at the time, finding the killer, bringing the killer to justice.
Look, like I said, I have zero.
And then again, the killer happens to like trans. Charlie was talking to the governor about trans. I'm not saying the governor had anything to do with it. You could think about it. I'm just putting it out there.
I've seen, look, I think, like I said, I have zero faith in the FBI. I think even within the first 48 hours, the way that they handled this was like all over the place. Everybody got ahead of themselves. And, look, there's just no credibility anywhere. And, I don't know, I think it's also, this is not something that we see, thank God, every day in our society. And when you see something this brutally graphic, it's shocking, and it's a natural instinct to not believe that it's real, I think. Like, if you speak to your parents, or like my mother remembers exactly where she was when Kennedy got shot, that's the kind of stuff didn't happen, and I think it is natural instinct to like not believe that something's real. But then, that our institutions everything is just, there's zero credibility in our institutions.
And also, apparently the feds said that there was a delay of getting information from the governor's office about this Tyler Robinson.
Yeah, look, when the George Floyd stuff happened, they literally sat on the video. They released like 30 seconds of the video. They didn't release the next 30 minutes of that video until like 6 months later.
So I'm telling you, there's more to this story, and I wouldn't be surprised if things start coming out.
But I think, here's the thing. I agree with you. I don't have faith that we're going to get to a place where, I think the credibility look, if I believe, if I really am sitting here and I believe that we have a Russian spy sitting in the Oval Office, right? If I believe that, and there are people that believe that, if I believe that, and if I believe that Charlie Kirk is a Nazi, a hateful Nazi working for a Russian spy, if I believe that, that's going to, come in the middle of the night and rip my uterus, like I don't know what then I'm happy, and I don't believe anything that anybody says if it smells like it's in support of a Nazi or a Russian spy. So it's, that's why they do this stuff. It's a lot easier and much more effective than having to sit there and debate the merits of progressive versus regressive tax policy.
Right. All right. Rest in peace, Charlie.
Yeah, rest in peace, Charlie. His poor daughters. And did you see, by the way, one thing that was sorry. Did you see all these things that keep coming out about athletes donating and then they're fake like that?
And start with
And
immediately after.
right, and it's also I looked them all up. Like it's always a lot of them are 260,000.
Yeah,
It's the same, and it's a strange. Anyway,
It's
it's just
weird.
an example. Yeah,
It's weird.
this whole thing, it's crazy.
And they start with immediately after. Immediately after, so and so donated to the family. Which, okay, great if they did, but it's just weird that it starts with immediately
but
after.
it just goes to like it's just interesting, and there's no credible source, and I'm not saying I don't want censorship of the public square. I'd like at our higher up institutions, certainly in our government, I'd like there to be accountability for stuff that we know is and there's just not. And I'd like there to be grown-ups that are like, no, you know what? We're not going to let kids dress up like a dog and shit on the floor because that's just crazy.
It is.
But
crazy.
apparently I'm a racist because I don't think kids should be shitting on the floor dressed like a dog.
No. All right, let's go on to our next topic. And last week, the story and the video of this Ukrainian girl, Iryna Zarutska, in North Carolina, who was stabbed to death on a train
Yeah.
by a Decarlos Brown. We didn't talk about it because we didn't have our pod last week, but this was before the Charlie Kirk assassination. This was the story in the news. The poor Iryna Zarutska, who came from the Ukraine as a refugee, who escaped war, who came to America to find better life, to find safety, to not get killed in Ukraine, gets killed here in North Carolina on a train coming home from work by a deranged lunatic, Decarlos Brown, who did not use a gun, by the way. For people who are saying guns are violent and guns kill people and we should get rid of guns, this was a knife. And he killed her, and it was brutal. She did not deserve this, but we're not talking about the murder. We're talking about what happened after the murder, Matthew. And what happened was Judge Roy Wiggins of North Carolina, and this was going around, and I cannot believe this actually happened, but things now come to light. Judge Roy Wiggins released Decarlos Brown, and at first everyone was saying, "Oh, the judge released him. This is another, DEI, cashless bail. We're releasing criminals. We're releasing them into the, back onto the streets. How could they do this? He's a murderer. How are they going to release him?" But it did come out that he was not released, but they sent him to a hospital to get mental health evaluation, and he would be put back into jail after he got that evaluation. However, if you know anything about the court system, this is just a simple play to use his mental health. Of course he's crazy. The guy was arrested 14 times prior. Of course he's crazy. So they're going to use this as a defense that it wasn't planned, that he wasn't planning it, and that he just lost his marbles and killed her right there to plead to a lesser charge.
Okay. It's amazing. I just asked ChatGPT to confirm. Yeah. He's in Central Regional Hospital in Butner, North Carolina for, quote, capacity to proceed evaluation. Right. So they're looking up to see if he's sane. He's under deputy guard, but they're looking up to see if if he has the ability or if he's insane.
So that's what they're going with. And the judge is basically aiding this.
It's funny because I saw that I only saw that one exchange that went viral with Andrew Tate and Pierce Morgan. And Tate, because the guy does say on camera, got whitey, right? Or got the white bitch, or got the white girl. And Tate says, of course he's insane. He murdered somebody. And people that behave this way have mental problems. It's actually, I didn't know about this until you just told me about this, that they have this guy in a hospital and they've already now contaminated the jury pool, right? Because they're checking to see his sanity, which I think was a really smart point that Tate made. I mean, the guy's not sane. He's a mental case. He's a lunatic, but he murdered this defenseless girl. So that's crazy.
That is, it's insane. But his family came out and said, yeah, he shouldn't have been out on the streets. He should have been in jail a long time ago.
By the way, well, okay, that's a different topic. There's something called cashless bail. The stuff we have that in New York. Governor Cuomo put in cashless bail, and that's we've got these guys all on our subway because of that. Okay. So, by the way, he was also fare jumping when he was on that bus, and fare jumping is something that happens in a cashless bail system because they don't fear the consequence. They'll be out tomorrow if they have placed. If I get caught, I'll be out tomorrow. But what ends up happening is that it's not policed because police are like, this guy's going to get out tomorrow. What am I going to go risk?
Of course.
Yeah. So cashless bail fare jumper wouldn't be there, but for the cashless bail. Or certainly, without the cashless bail, the odds of him being on that bus are much, much lower. It's horrible, and
it's
then
horrible.
Add to it, Rudy, that it happened on August 22nd, right? We didn't hear about it until a couple weeks later. Now, I don't.
We heard about it a couple weeks later because the video leaked.
Right. Well, however that leaked, how could you not hear about that on a national scale? They pick and choose what they make national news, it certainly seems. And apparently this insane, just savage murder of a totally defenseless Ukrainian immigrant doesn't kick up the poll. It's horrific. It's enraging. It's terrible. And I didn't know about the hospital thing. That is bonkers, man.
It's bonkers. It's bonkers. He should be. Here's the whole thing.
Sorry.
We have the guy on video. What kind of defense is that?
And by the way, he was sitting there, and there were other people who he didn't attack.
Who didn't do anything?
No. But before you get
he didn't do anything.
He was sitting there for a while, around a bunch of people who he could have attacked. This insane guy. This was another point that Tate made. He's like, you want to say it has nothing to do with race? What do those other people have in common that this Ukrainian immigrant didn't?
Right. They were all black.
Right. So for some reason, this wild and crazy guy didn't, he didn't click off until this person got on there, and we have it on video. It's like
we have it on video. So why should there even be a trial? Why waste taxpayer money? Put the guy in the wood chipper and call it a day.
Look, I'm
rip out his nails, but one by one.
It's just crazy that they're just nothing. Literally, if parents are afraid to say, why are you making me legitimize this kid's belief that he's a donkey in math class? That you're harming my child. You're a racist if you say that. There's no grounding anymore, right? And it's by intention. This is not organic. This was not like a development that happened. This was an intentional campaign that's been waged on us by our government with the media.
Let the criminal out. Let them out. Let them out. Let them out until they kill somebody, and then we're going to let them out again.
It's crazy. I didn't know about this.
And speaking of criminals, our next topic, and this is what bothers me. So this guy kills somebody, and how many times in New York do we see somebody committing a rape, a murder, pushing somebody on a subway track, and then they're out, right? And it's not just New York; it's California too.
No, it's. Right? I mean, look, we have certain laws,
right? But then there's this guy, Chef Valentino Luchin. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He's 62 years old. Matthew, he gets arrested, and he's in jail.
What did he do?
In California. In San Francisco. What do you think he did? I'll give you A, B, and C.
Did he shit outside?
A, he murdered somebody. B, he stole someone's car. 3, he robbed a bank.
Oh, yeah. He robbed the bank.
Right. He robbed three banks in one day. Probably got a couple $1,000s because those banks don't carry cash anymore. And they're all sitting in jail. He got 2 counts of robbery, 1 count of attempted robbery, because I guess one of them he didn't get it off.
How much did he get away with?
Couple $1,000. Doesn't say exactly the amount.
Well, I think it's not a crime in California unless it's over 2,000 or 1,000 or something.
Yes, I think maybe the total was a little bit over that. He was handing the tellers handwritten notes. I don't know what those notes
I like that style. When you rob a bank, You seen those in movies when they don't have a gun, they just pass a note like, there are guns on you. It's pretty. It's
Yeah,
a
there was that
pretty
movie with George Clooney
right out of sight
where he hands the note, or he says, "Listen, the guy sitting over there,
with J Lo.
yeah, if you don't give me the money,
Right,
he's gonna kill the bank manager."
that's a
And
good
then he
movie.
waves, the guy waves.
Yeah,
But that's the same thing. So this guy's in jail, and he didn't. I mean, yeah, bank robbery is a crime. He should be in jail. But if you're letting out a murderer, why is this guy sitting in jail? It's not like he committed a crime. He didn't even. I don't even know if he had a
well,
gun. I think he had a BB gun.
well, no, I mean he robbed a bank. He committed a crime.
No, it's a crime. But I'm saying there's like levels of crimes, like murder, rape, beating the shit out of somebody, pushing somebody on a subway
I
track,
think bank robbery
stealing a
is a
car.
felon.
Yeah. Oh, maybe because it's a bank. It's not a store. So if it was a store, he'd be out.
Yeah, no, if it was a store, he'd be back. He'd be back in there stealing whatever wasn't behind the casing. Like, he couldn't steal the moisturizer, but he could take whatever else is there.
Right. So it's a bank. So it's a little bit more severe 'cause it's a bank.
Look, the cashless bill, Cuomo passed cashless bill in New York, saying that it was inequitable, racist to make there were certain people pay bail because if they didn't have money, they couldn't get out. Whereas if you did have money, you could get out. That's like most things that are passed under this. That's like one small part of the equation because they said, well, this is only going to be non-violent crimes. These are quality of life crimes, right? So now you're basically telling the population of people that are predisposed to committing these types of crimes, no problem. You don't have a consequence anymore. So they're out, and it's a wrap. You're not a lawful society under cashless.
You know who else got arrested? Do you remember this guy, the Tinder Swindler? There was a whole Netflix
Yeah, I
show
never
about him.
saw I never saw the show. I heard it was good.
So Tinder Swindler, and he would meet these girls on Tinder, swipe
Yeah.
whatever which way you swipe on Tinder, I don't know.
Mm.
And he had these girls fall in love with him, and then he would get money. They would give him money and buy him things, and then he would disappear. And he was running this racket. He was using fake names. They thought that he was some kind of like, I don't know, like oligarch or whatever. He had money, prince or whatever it was.
Accent.
He had an accent. He had a whole thing. But he just got arrested today in the country of Georgia. And I guess he was still running his Tinder Swindler, things. He was this guy was taking pictures on private planes, all designer.
So he's in trouble. They don't have cashless bail over there.
In Georgia? The country Georgia? I don't know. Interpol arrested him. So he probably did something in another country, and they don't mess around there. He probably stole more money from these women. And that's the other thing is I don't understand, like, what's wrong with these women giving these men thousands and thousands? We're not talking about like $5,000, $6,000. We're talking about like a lot of thousands of dollars, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. Like, what's wrong with you giving this guy who's supposedly already wealthy, giving him money?
I never saw the show. How would he get them to give him money?
You see, I don't remember it because the show was a long time ago. He would be like, "Oh, let me borrow money. My money's cut." It's like that, the Nigerian thing. Oh, give me $200 so I could access the money that I left in my London loft.
I love the movie Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Where he's prince of a very small country, and this is going to go to the freedom fighters. I love that movie.
Right, so that's basically he probably watched that movie and he's like, "Oh, yeah. I can do this. I could do the same thing."
Look, it just takes confidence.
Well, that's what it is. They're con men, confidence men, con men.
People want to believe, and want to believe that they're hanging out with, the jet set.
I love you. Let me give you some money. But I don't have any money. Let me borrow some money, and then I'll give it back
fighters,
to you.
I forget the name of the country that he would tell them he was from. It was great.
Speaking of fighters, another topic. UFC fighter and legend Conor McGregor. He announced that he was running for president of Ireland like a week ago.
Yeah.
Today he announced that he's not running.
Really?
Yeah. He announced he is not running.
Why?
I'm going to read you his statement.
Oh, that's a bummer, man.
I recently announced my sincere and genuine intentions of running for the office of Ukrainian Nahirian. I don't know if I've pronounced that right, but I am very passionate, Gael, and take great pride in our country. I have demonstrated this fighting Irish spirit on a world stage and placed us rightly at the top table. I have been truly humbled by the support and encouragement I have received canvassing the length and breadth of our great island, meeting and speaking with the forgotten Irish who feel abandoned and ignored by established woke politics. I traveled to New York last Wednesday, a home to many Irish who followed their dreams in pursuit of happiness, to rightfully commemorate the tragic terror attacks of 9/11 and discussed my aspirations for Ireland with the U.S. administration. I remain in America and will attend to imminent unforeseen meetings that will translate to Irish jobs. Ireland has drastically changed in recent years. However, its
But
constraint.
why did he stop running?
I'm getting to it. I'm reading his thing.
Sorry.
That catalyzed a mobilization of positive change in Ireland against a Molotoving political witch hunt, working together with the mainstream media's supercharged fake news. There is now a visible and vocal movement of Irish patriots reverting to our cultural and historical origins, seeking to maintain and protect our way of Irish. Blah 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 blah. Goes on and goes on. It looks like he couldn't get on the ballot.
Looks like he was in a serious.
Looks like he couldn't get on the ballot.
state, a binge.
Yeah, it looks like he could not get on the ballot and therefore he withdrew. That's what it seems like. You want to ask Chat GPT why he ran, why he's not running anymore? Because it seems like he ran, he talked and talked and talked, but
I
didn't
liked
really
it.
explain it.
I mean, the guy is hopped up, man.
He's
guy
hopped up.
is-
I don't know how he could get around all the negativity that he's had, and
He
you
said-
know, he's
He said
very
after
controversial.
talking key reasons, couldn't get enough nominations to get on the ballot. You need either support from 20 members of the Ordreichsrath or nominations of 4 local authorities, city council. So basically, he failed in his bid to get the threat to breach the threshold of what he needed to get on the ballot, and then he said he didn't like the system and he wanted to reflect with his family.
Right, so he couldn't get on the ballot. Another
I'm
loss.
shocked. That's true. I'm bummed. I would have loved to see him make a run of that.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about the great governor of the great state of New York, Comrade Kathy Hochul. I have many names for her, and Comrade is probably
The
the
nicest.
nicest. Yeah, the nicest. I mean, so she comes out today and endorses Zohran Mamdani for mayor of New York City, and her stance is that he's going to be making New York more affordable for the residents of New York City. So, Matthew,
Yes,
who's the governor of New York?
Kathy Hochul.
Right. Couldn't she make or have made New York more affordable for New Yorkers?
Well, she could- Look, it goes back
Why
to
does
what
she have to wait for this communist mayor to come in to make New York more affordable when she could have done it herself?
Yeah, but it's going back to what I said. She's doing this because she thinks it is politically expedient, that it advances her career, because they believe, like Obama, like Bloomberg, like all these people, like, you want to be the DSA. There is no Democratic Party anymore. Like that's what I'm telling you. It's been completely absorbed by the more radical kids that are running around streets. AOC, you can look it up, because they were withholding their nomination of her because they didn't like the way they thought that AOC was going too much to the right. She had to go and do events. I mean, they are all scared that they're going to be voted out of office if they don't have the support of this section of their constituency. I mean, it's a real thing, you know. So yeah, she went out. She came out and endorsed Zohran because she thinks that it's going to put her in better favor with the groups, people out there that she's going to rely on to get her job back.
She's not getting her job back. In fact, she made New York less affordable for New Yorkers. And what did she do? She raised empty MTA subway fares.
Look,
She
they
gave
all
us new toll in New York City to get rid of the congestion tolling, but it actually didn't do anything. We still have a mass amounts of cars, and where's that money going to? We have new taxes in New York for employees, employment taxes. She raised taxes. Let's
look.
see what else. I mean, she
It's
did
been
a number on New York. So
it's
how is
been
she going to make New York more affordable? She's not. It's all a game. She's going to hurt the businesses. Zohran's going to hurt the businesses. And we've talked about this. We've talked about how bad Zohran is. And the fact of the matter is, you think she's going to go and endorse Andrew Cuomo, whose job she stole?
look. We've had one party rule in this state, in this city for some time. I think Cuomo's the worst choice out there. Cuomo is directly, in terms of who owns this pie of shit that they've created, Cuomo's got the biggest chunk. Okay, cashless bail, Cuomo. Rent stabilization, Cuomo. I mean, the reality is it stinks. This whole situation stinks because, nobody's asking why Trump and his cabinet are so aggressively campaigning for Andrew Cuomo when they have other people that they could be going for and could have gotten him out. He's the only one that ran against Zohran and got his ass kicked. But for some reason, they're telling us he's the only logical choice. I think that they're going to stick Cuomo in no matter what. I think that Zohran has achieved his platform. I think Zohran is more effective in his ability to cause harm not being in Gracie Mansion, because he gets in Gracie Mansion, all of a sudden all the bullshit that he's peddling, the rubber meets the road, will go broke in 4 days if you put all of his policies into effect. I think that they're going to stick Cuomo in. I think Cuomo's, basically Zohran without the Free Palestine keffiyeh wearing thing, but his policies are pretty much exactly what Zohran wants to do. And you'll have Zohran now who will overtake AOC as the new voice of the opposition. And it's easy to be opposition because all you got to do is bitch. You don't have to do anything.
So sad. It's so sad what's happening to New York. It's really, really, really sad. I just don't understand. I really don't. I really don't understand it. And it boggles my mind how people are going to be tricked into voting for this imbecile.
People go along with anything.
Right, because they're being told, "Oh, he's going to make things affordable." He's not going to make things affordable.
Yeah,
He's
but
definitely not.
the government can't. They can only make things harder.
They're going to make things harder.
They
They're going to
will.
make things harder. People don't understand it, and it's going to the day of reckoning is coming, unfortunately, for New Yorkers. And unfortunately, we are in the midst of it because we are in New York,
I mean,
unfortunately.
look, there's an element of this that's cyclical. Anybody who wants to go out and rent taxi driver, they can. That was after 35 years of one-party Democratic rule. Things got so bad that they gave Rudy Giuliani a chance. So, I honestly, I think that, really Cuomo or this guy, Cuomo or this guy is just,
We talked about it. It's two shits. Which shit are you going to step in? They both
Well,
smell.
I can't, I told you, I can't vote for Cuomo. There's not a shot. So, but I assume they're just going to stick him in anyway. I mean, that's
Kathy Hochul. Kathy Hochul. Good job. Good job. Keep lining those pockets with Buffalo Bill Stadium money and casino money.
What's amazing,
Allegedly.
she goes to, it's all bullshit. She's like, these people, it's such a corrupt, disgusting thing.
It's corrupt. It's corrupt. Our last topic, this is breaking news. You don't know anything about it because you've been sitting here with me. Trump designates Antifa as a terrorist organization. He's going after them. He's cracking down on the radical left NGOs. He's going to put Rico on them. He's going after George Soros. He's going after the Antifa and the radical and leftist NGOs and the people who are giving money to attacking ICE officials, the Border Patrol, anybody else. He's going to track the money. We'll see if this is true. He's tracking the money. He's going to track to see who else besides Soros is giving these organizations money. And it's a wait and see. Maybe it's all smoke. Maybe he's just blowing something up our asses. And this is all breaking down. We'll see. Pam Bondi says she's got information, but then again, Pam Bondi told us that she had Epstein files that she was going to tell us about, and she didn't.
Sucks.
Do you think that we're going to see some arrests? Do you think George Soros or Alex Soros is going to go down? Do you think that
No,
Pakistani
no,
billionaire who's hiding out in Hong Kong is going to go down, or Singapore, wherever he is?
no. I don't think so. I think
This is all talk.
yeah, I think everything's all talk. Look, I'd prefer him just focus on really, really small stuff, like try and get it so that, they're not teaching or, sodomy to 2-year-olds. That would be a nice start. And you'd think that might be achievable. That he can't do. So I don't know.
It's a long feat to get into the schools and change around everything.
Look, I think
that I
the
can tell
the U.S. government is fortified against reform. Every aspect of it. If you think about it, we both know a lot of people in the restaurant business. I've got friends. They've recently opened up the restaurants. I said, "How long does it take you to staff and open that restaurant?" He's like 3-4 months. I said, "How many?" And this is a very successful restaurateur. How many employees you have there? 100. 3-4 months. 80 to 100 employees. President-elect is elected in November, and they get in January. Okay? There are more than 1 million federal employees. Donald Trump's cabinet still has Biden appointees working for them because the confirmation process is nowhere near finished for a large swath of them. So then you talk about budget, what they're actually able to switch and do and close and not. And don't even worry about talking about Doge, which, you haven't heard about that in forever. Just literally what changes they're allowed to make to the budget. That's the system is set up to defend against all of that, a discretionary cut. So it's really, really depressing when you get into the, what they've set up in terms of making this bureaucracy completely fortified against anybody wanting to come in there and do anything. So the answer is, I don't think Trump has the authority to do anything. He makes them a terrorist organization by executive order. Okay, that's great. Next guy comes in, that executive order is gone. And I think it's red meat for people that'll be excited about the idea of Soros and this. I mean, it's like there's just, you're going up against, and the truth is, irrespective, Trump is as good as we've got because the way he speaks, which people all say, oh, I wish he had nicer rhetoric. The ball is so much further downfield. They're literally shooting people in the throat, so. And it's tough, but do I have I don't think Soros is worried.
I don't think so. He's not even here. So what are you going to get him? He's going to flee. He's somewhere. Last thing I just want to bring up, because we spoke about it on our last podcast about Mayor Eric Adams stepping down. We heard again the rumors. In fact, it's too late for anybody to bow out of the race, but we heard it again today. Eric Adams is going to drop out of the race. And it's already Monday evening, September 15th, and he still hasn't dropped out. I don't think he's dropping out. You think he's dropping out?
I think that Trump hasn't said this isn't happening. So I think that I think that he is getting these offers.
So we're gonna monitor
and I think
the situation.
I think that these offers, it's not like, hey buddy, we like you a lot, because like I said, there's no rationale for why Cuomo has a better shot than him. Cuomo is the only candidate that ran and lost against Zohran. So there's no rationale. But for whatever reason, Trump loves Cuomo and is working with him. Point is, it's like the offer you can't refuse. Trump doesn't want to be embarrassed. He's made an offer. That offer probably is something like, listen, you either do this and we give you the ability to earn, or you stay in that race, and then those cases, they come back. Pam Bondi's got time on her hands. She's not worried about Epstein or anything, but in between catching Soros and everything, I'm sure she can find time to bring those cases back.
And if he loses, what's he going to do?
Well, that's
Get
the thing.
a job in the restaurant business?
So, I mean, the offer is more like this is a life. I mean, when you're publicly printing that the guy is being offered a position to go to Saudi Arabia, that people don't stop and are like, what the hell is going on here? Like, why is the president offering this guy a job in Saudi Arabia? It's like what people, and then they talk about polls. There was a poll. There was an election on June 24th. Zohran kicked the shit out of Cuomo. And then 2 days later, yeah, but in round 2, Cuomo will win. He's the logical choice. the whole thing is weird. The whole thing is like, and nobody's asking what the hell is going on. You know, like I said, I think we're not going to like anything that happens here. My preference would be to have Eric Adams stay in place. We've got a taste of what he's done. I'm okay with like a, stasis right now rather than like, just like throwing another 1,200,000 pound elephant on top of the shit, So it's like, but I think it's going to be wild, this finish. I mean, and by the way, he's hung on, to your point. Adams has hung on now for a week after getting these offers. So we'll see.
We'll see. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, citizenoutbreak.com, buy the game, tell your friends, share the show. Thank you.